It all started with a simple email. At the time, I was broke, struggling to pay rent, living off instant noodles, and scouring the internet for any kind of gig that could keep me afloat. I'd done odd jobs here and there, but nothing ever seemed to stick. That's when I saw the ad, looking for a temporary companion. Generous pay. Must be discreet. I was curious, to say the least. The ad was vague, but the promise of generous pay was enough to catch my attention. So, on a whim, I sent an email asking for more details, not really expecting much to come of it. But then, a few hours later, I got a reply. Meet me at the Blue Orchid Cafe at 2 p.m. tomorrow. Ask for Sebastian. It sounded sketchy, but what did I have to lose? The next day, I found myself sitting at a small corner table in the Blue Orchid Cafe, nervously sipping my coffee as I waited for this mysterious Sebastian to show up. I had no idea what to expect. Was this some kind of scam? Or worse, some shady deal that would land me in trouble? But then the door opened, and a man walked in. He was tall, impeccably dressed in a tailored suit, with dark hair slicked back and piercing green eyes that seemed to take in everything around him. He looked like he belonged on the cover of a fashion magazine, not in some cafe meeting a random guy like me. "Are you James?" he asked, his voice smooth and confident as he approached my table. I nodded, my heart pounding. "Yeah, that's me." He smiled, sitting down across from me. "I'm Sebastian." We exchanged pleasantries, though I was still on edge, unsure of what this was all about. Sebastian, however, seemed completely at ease, like he'd done this 100 times before. "Thank you for meeting me," he said, leaning back in his chair. "I'm sure you're wondering why I placed that ad." "Yeah," I admitted, trying to sound casual even though my nerves were shot. "What exactly are you looking for?" Sebastian's smile widened slightly. "It's simple. I need someone to pretend to be my boyfriend." I blinked, caught off guard by how direct he was. "Your boyfriend?" He nodded, his expression unreadable. "Yes. It's a long story, but the short version is I come from a wealthy family. My parents are very traditional, very controlling, and they've been pressuring me to settle down with someone appropriate for years now. I can't stand the constant meddling, so I came up with a plan." I stared at him, still processing what he was saying. "You want me to pretend to be your boyfriend so your parents will back off?" I asked, just to make sure I understood. Sebastian nodded again. "Exactly. They're hosting a family event next weekend, and I need you to come with me and play the role. In exchange, I'll pay you generously for your time." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It sounded like something out of a cheesy rom-com, not real life. "How much are we talking?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He smiled, clearly expecting the question. $5,000 for the weekend." I almost choked on my coffee. $5,000? That was more money than I had seen in months. It would cover my rent for the next few months, and then some. "Wow," I muttered, my mind racing. "That's a lot." Sebastian shrugged, like it was nothing. "Consider it a business arrangement. You help me out, and I'll make sure you're taken care of." I sat there, trying to weigh my options. It sounded insane, pretending to be someone's boyfriend for a weekend just to make his parent happy. But the money, that was a game changer for me. After a few moments of silence, I finally nodded. "All right, I'm in." The next week flew by in a blur. Sebastian sent over clothes for me to wear, briefed me on his family, and made sure I knew exactly how to act around his parents. He was incredibly meticulous, almost like he was preparing for a high-stakes business deal. He even told me what pet names to use, how to hold his hand, and how to make the relationship seem believable. By the time the weekend rolled around, I felt like I was about to step into a soap opera. We arrived at his parents' mansion on Saturday morning. The place was massive, complete with sprawling gardens, a pool, and enough rooms to get lost in. Sebastian introduced me to his parents, Mr. and Mrs. Thornton, who were every bit as stiff and formal as I had imagined. They eyed me with suspicion at first, but Sebastian was a master at charming them, and before long, they seemed to warm up to the idea that he was finally settling down. The rest of the day went smoothly enough. I played my part, holding Sebastian's hand, laughing at his jokes, and making sure to follow his lead. Everything was going according to plan. That night, as we sat by the pool after everyone else had gone to bed, Sebastian leaned back in his chair, gazing up at the stars. "I have to admit, you've been doing a great job," he said, his voice low and relaxed. I didn't expect you to pull it off so well. I shrugged, trying to play it cool. It's just acting, right? He chuckled, turning to look at me. Maybe, but you made it feel real. I glanced over at him, surprised by the sincerity in his voice. For the first time all weekend, Sebastian didn't seem like the smooth, confident guy who had everything under control. He seemed vulnerable. You're a good guy, James, he said softly, his gaze lingering on me. I didn't expect that. I felt my heart skip a beat. There was something in the way he was looking at me, something I hadn't seen before. For a moment, I wasn't sure what to say. But before I could respond, Sebastian leaned in and kissed me. The kiss was unexpected, but not unwelcome. I kissed him back, my mind spinning with the sudden realization that this wasn't just an act anymore. There was something real here, something neither of us had planned for. When we finally pulled apart, Sebastian's eyes were wide with surprise, like he hadn't expected it to go that far. I didn't mean to, he started, but I cut him off. It's okay, I whispered, still trying to process what had just happened. It's fine. He nodded, but the tension between us was palpable. We both knew we had crossed a line, and there was no going back. The kiss between Sebastian and me should have been the most complicated part of this whole arrangement. I didn't think things could get weirder than the moment we crossed the line from fake boyfriends to something far more real. But I was wrong. The rest of the weekend was a blur of pretending, stolen glances, and awkward silences. Sebastian and I tried to act like everything was normal, but the tension between us was undeniable. His parents didn't notice a thing. Why would they? To them, everything was going perfectly according to plan. Their son had finally found someone suitable, and they couldn't have been happier. But beneath the surface, everything felt off. I kept replaying the kiss in my head, wondering what it meant. Was it just a moment of weakness? Or was there something more between us? Every time Sebastian looked at me, I felt like I was walking a tightrope, not sure which way things would tip. By the time Sunday evening rolled around, I was more than ready to leave. The weekend had been emotionally exhausting, and I just wanted to get back to my regular life, the one where I wasn't pretending to be someone's boyfriend or navigating a weird emotional minefield. Sebastian dropped me off at my apartment, and as I opened the car door to get out, he stopped me. James, wait. I paused, glancing back at him. There was something in his voice, something almost urgent. We need to talk about what happened, he said, his eyes searching mine. I swallowed hard, feeling the familiar knot of anxiety tighten in my chest. I know, but maybe we shouldn't overthink it. Sebastian shook his head, his jaw clenched. No, it wasn't nothing. That kiss, it meant something. I stared at him, not sure how to respond. What was he trying to say? That we were more than just a business arrangement now. Before I could ask, Sebastian sighed, running a hand through his hair. This is more complicated than you think, James. There are things I didn't tell you. Things about why I hired you. My heart skipped a beat, the nervous energy buzzing through me like an electric current. What do you mean? Sebastian's gaze dropped, and for the first time since I'd met him, he looked vulnerable, uncertain. I didn't just hire you to play the part of my boyfriend for my parents, he said quietly. I hired you because I needed to keep you close. I blinked, confused. Keep me close? What are you talking about? He sighed, his fingers drumming against the steering wheel, as if he were trying to figure out how to explain. Let's just say my family is complicated. They don't just want me to settle down, they have expectations. They control a lot more than you realize. And I've been trying to figure out a way out of their control for a long time. I frowned, trying to piece together what he was saying. So you hired me to protect yourself from your family? Sebastian hesitated before nodding. Something like that. They've been pressuring me for years, and I knew they were getting more involved in my life than I could handle. They're not just worried about appearances, they're worried about control. If I had a boyfriend, someone they approved of, it would buy me time to get out from under their thumb. My mind was racing, trying to make sense of everything. So, this was never just about making your parents happy. This was about you trying to escape. Sebastian's eyes met mine, and there was a raw honesty in his gaze that took me by surprise. Yes, and now it's more than that. I sat back, trying to process everything he had just told me. It was like the floor had shifted beneath me, and I was standing in a completely different place than I had been a minute ago. So, what do we do now? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Sebastian reached out, gently taking my hand in his. I don't know, but I don't want this to be the end. I stared at him, my heart pounding. This whole situation was a mess, but there was something in the way he looked at me that made me believe him. Maybe this was real. Maybe we weren't just playing pretend anymore. For the next few days, I tried to get back to normal, but Sebastian's confession stuck with me. I couldn't shake the feeling that I had gotten involved in something much bigger than I had realized. He hadn't just hired me to fool his parents. He had hired me to save himself from something much darker. Then, one night, everything came crashing down. I was at home watching TV when I heard a knock at the door. When I opened it, I found Sebastian standing there, his face pale and his expression frantic. They found out, he said, his voice trembling. They know everything. I stared at him, my stomach dropping. Who found out? My family, he replied, stepping inside and pacing the room. They've been watching us. They know about the arrangement, and they're not happy. James, this is bad. Really bad. My mind was spinning. I had no idea what he meant by bad, but the fear in his eyes told me it was serious. What are you saying, Sebastian? I asked, my voice shaking. He stopped pacing, looking at me with desperation in his eyes. We need to leave. Now. Within an hour, we were on the road, leaving everything behind. I didn't fully understand what was happening, but I trusted Sebastian enough to know that we had to get out of there. As we drove, he explained everything. His family wasn't just wealthy, they were powerful. They controlled more than just businesses. They controlled people. And when they found out about the fake relationship, they saw it as a betrayal. Sebastian had defied them, and now they were coming after him, and by extension me. They'll stop at nothing, Sebastian said, his hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. They don't care about the money. They care about control. And anyone who threatens that is a problem. I stared out the window, my mind racing. This wasn't just a fake boyfriend gig anymore. I had stumbled into something dangerous, something I never could have predicted. Where are we going? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Sebastian glanced at me, his expression serious. Somewhere they can't find us. Somewhere we can start over. I didn't know what the future held, or if we would ever truly escape the reach of Sebastian's family. But as we drove into the night, one thing was clear. This was only the beginning of something far crazier than either of us had expected.